Imagine this scene. The clock strikes 12, and it is a bone-chilling 28 degrees. A new mother is standing on an icy porch, clutching her twin boys, who are only 10 days old. She just had major surgery and is still bleeding into the thin pajamas the hospital gave her. Her own mother-in-law spat right in her face, calling her innocent children bastards. Then the man she married shoved her outside, locked the door, and plunged the house into darkness, abandoning her and their newborn sons in the freezing night. They believed she only had $43 to her name, but they were wrong. The truth was, she owned the very house they kicked her out of, along with most of the valuable commercial properties in the city. She is a billionaire, and for the last 4 years she had been living a lie, pretending to be poor. The reason was to find a man who would love her for who she was. But that charade ends tonight, and the payback she has planned for them is so flawless, so legal, and so incredibly satisfying, you will have a hard time believing it is a true story. If you have ever felt betrayed, looked down upon, or been cast aside by the very people who should have cherished you, you need to stick around. Believe me, you have to hear how this billionaire made them regret everything. And if you enjoy a great story where the villain gets what they deserve, go ahead and press the like button now. Leave a comment letting me know what you would have done in her shoes, and subscribe so you do not miss out on more stories like this one, because the next chapter will leave you speechless. This story will teach you the most powerful lesson about betrayal. The people who try to destroy you often hand you the very weapons you need to rebuild yourself stronger. It is proof that your darkest moment can become the foundation of your greatest comeback. And sometimes, the best revenge is not what you take from them. It is the life you build without them. Let me take you back to how this whole nightmare started. The heavy door slammed shut behind me. I was left standing on that porch at midnight on December 23rd, 2024, with my 10-day-old twin sons in my arms. They were both wailing. It was only 28 degrees outside. I was dressed in nothing but thin hospital pajamas, and I could feel the blood soaking through them. My husband's mother had just spat directly in my face. Her hateful words were still ringing in my head. Take those bastards and never come back. And my husband, the man who had vowed to cherish me forever, was the one who physically forced me out. He then turned around without a word and went back inside. I heard the lock make a final, sickening click. The light on the porch went out, throwing us into complete blackness. I had just $43 in my purse, or at least that is what they assumed. What the entire Mitchell family had no idea about was that I was the actual owner of the house they had just ejected me from. I also owned the other 22 homes on this block, the company Ryan was employed at, and about half of the commercial buildings in all of Greenville, North Carolina. My name is Sarah Blake. I am a 32-year-old billionaire who has spent the last 4 years posing as a poor woman. This is the account of the most painful betrayal I have ever endured, and the story of how I ensured they paid for every last moment of it. If you have ever been misjudged, hurt by those who were supposed to protect you, or discarded like you meant nothing, then listen to the end, because the revenge I delivered was something they absolutely never expected. I will take you back to the very beginning. 4 years earlier, my name was Catherine Sarah Blake. And yes, I am that Blake, from Blake Holdings. At just 28, I became a billionaire almost instantly when I took my parents' failing software business public. My mother and father, Andrew and Catherine Blake, started a small company in Boston back in 1995 that made software for property managers. It was nothing special, just a simple program to help landlords keep track of rent and repair requests. In 2017, They died when their private plane went down in bad weather. I was only 25, and I inherited a business that was $3 million in the red and losing more money each month. Everybody advised me to just sell the company, liquidate its assets, and minimize my losses, but I refused. That company was the only thing I had left of my parents. So, I pushed myself to the limit. I worked 100-hour weeks and learned how to program artificial intelligence on my own. I completely overhauled the old system and created Blake OS, an AI that could forecast building maintenance, set optimal rent prices, and run entire properties automatically. By 2020, we were working with property management firms in 43 states. In March of that year, our company went public. I was a billionaire at age 28. Forbes magazine dubbed me the prop tech princess. Fast Company called me a genius. It seemed like I had it all, but in reality, I had nothing. Because just 6 months before the company's initial public offering, I discovered that my fiancé, Marcus, had a sickening plan. He intended to marry me, file for divorce right away, and try to walk away with half of my fortune. He had been secretly scheming with his lawyer for months, had faked documents, and was preparing to argue that he had played a key role in the company's turnaround, and he almost got away with it. We uncovered his scheme just 3 days before our wedding day. The criminal trial that followed was a public spectacle and a total nightmare. The media was relentless. My picture was plastered across every tabloid. Tech heiress targeted by gold digger fiancé. I was on the witness stand for 6 days. In the end, he was sentenced to 5 years for fraud and attempted grand larceny. But a part of me broke during that trial. My ability to trust was shattered. I gave up on trusting anyone. I stopped going on dates. I lost all faith that anyone could ever love me for myself. All they seemed to care about was my money. They only saw me as a walking bank account. So, in 2021, I decided to do something drastic. I relocated to Greenville, North Carolina, a town big enough for anonymity. I crafted an entirely new life for myself. I introduced myself as Sarah Blake, a freelance copywriter. My cover story was that my parents had passed away and left me a small life insurance policy of $100,000, which was just enough to buy a small condo. Only 2 people knew the real story, my attorney, David Harrison, and my assistant, Emma Rodriguez. I tasked them with handling my real life, the corporate board meetings, the vast investments, the entire business empire, while I attempted to experience life as an ordinary person. All I wanted was to see if someone could fall in love with the ordinary Sarah. The Sarah who was a copywriter, the Sarah who drove a beat-up Honda Civic, the Sarah who used coupons at the grocery store and worried about paying her power bill. I desperately wanted to be treated like a person, not a financial statement with a heartbeat. Then, in September of 2021, I crossed paths with Ryan Mitchell. It was at a charity event to raise money for the Greenville Public Library. I attended because I genuinely adore libraries. They were my sanctuary when I was growing up. He was at the event because he spent his weekends volunteering to read to children. I observed him for a while that afternoon before we were formally introduced. He was reading Where the Wild Things Are to a circle of 6-year-olds, complete with different voices for the characters, making them all giggle. He came across as gentle and patient. He never once glanced at his phone. He was completely engaged in the moment. When we finally started talking, he inquired about my job. I told him I wrote copy for a living. He replied, "That is really neat. I work in property management. It is not the most glamorous job, but it covers my expenses." He made no attempt to show off. He did not boast about anything. Instead, he posed questions and actually listened to my answers. We got coffee after the event, which led to dinner the following week, and then a movie. And bit by bit, I cautiously allowed myself to develop feelings for him. Naturally, I had Emma conduct a thorough background investigation. I am not a fool. The report on Ryan Mitchell came back spotless. No criminal history, always paid his taxes. His only debt was from student loans, and he had a solid credit score. He was employed by Hudson Property Management, which, in a strange twist of fate, was a subsidiary of one of my own holding companies. However, it was hidden under so many layers of corporate ownership that not even Ryan's direct supervisor knew who the ultimate owner was. I observed him carefully for half a year before we became a couple. I had to be absolutely certain, and he appeared to be completely authentic. He always insisted on paying for our dates, even when I knew it was a stretch for his budget. He recalled the little details from our conversations. He showed incredible patience with me during my moments of anxiety or when I seemed distant. He never pressured me. Over the next year, I came close to revealing the truth to him on at least a dozen occasions. But each time I was about to speak, the memory of Marcus would flash in my mind. I would see the look in his eyes when he knew I had figured out his betrayal, the absolute coldness, the scheming, the raw greed. So, I kept my secret, and we continued to build what I believed was a genuine life. For Thanksgiving of 2022, Ryan asked me to come and meet his family. That should have been my first warning. I should have recognized the signs. The Mitchell home was a split-level house in a typical middle-class area. It was presentable enough, with a well-kept lawn and an American flag hanging by the door. Barbara Mitchell opened it, wearing a dress far too fancy for a casual family meal and a cloud of perfume so strong it was suffocating. "So, you must be Sarah," she declared, her eyes scanning me from head to toe as if I were a piece of used furniture she was considering. "Ryan has told us just so much about you." The way she drew out the words "so much" made it obvious he had told them very little. Inside, Tom Mitchell was quietly putting out the silverware, offering me little more than a nod. Ryan's sister, Melissa, was also there with her husband at the time, Derek. She gave me a hug, but it was the kind of stiff embrace where the other person barely makes contact. She leaned in and whispered, "What a cute outfit. Did you get it at Target?" It was clearly not meant as a compliment. The meal was incredibly awkward. Barbara launched right into a barrage of personal questions. "So, where did you grow up? The Boston area? Oh, how sophisticated. And what about your parents? They passed away several years ago." "Oh." She paused for effect. "Did they leave you anything of value?" Ryan quickly cut in. "Mom, that is enough." "What?" she retorted. "It is a perfectly fair question. I am just trying to learn more about her." She then turned her attention to my career. When I mentioned I was a freelance copywriter, she let out a small, condescending laugh. "So you get to work from your house?" "That must be convenient. Very flexible hours." She paused. "It is not exactly what you would call a real career." "Is it?" "It covers my expenses," I replied. "Well, that is a good thing, because Ryan's income is certainly not enough to provide for a family of 4. She delivered the line with a smile, as if it were a light-hearted joke. It was not. Melissa then chimed in, "Sarah, what a lovely bracelet. Is it genuine silver?" In truth, it was made of platinum and valued at $12,000, a gift I had purchased for myself. But I had gotten used to downplaying my expensive items. "No, it is just some costume jewelry," I lied. "Oh, well, it looks authentic." "You have remarkably good taste for someone with limited means." The entire evening unfolded like that, a series of small insults and passive-aggressive remarks. Barbara interrogated me about everything: the neighborhood I lived in, the car I drove, how I occupied my time, and even if I attended church. When I admitted that I was not especially religious, The sound she made was a sharp, audible gasp. Oh, well, Ryan was brought up in the church, you see. Our faith means a great deal to us. Ryan made a weak attempt to defend me. Mom, not everybody is like that. I am just saying it would be beneficial for her soul and for both of their souls if their relationship is going to be serious. During the drive home, I mentioned to Ryan that his family was overwhelming. They are just being protective, he explained. They will eventually warm up to you. Reader, I can assure you they never warmed up to me. We became engaged in June of 2023. Ryan asked me to marry him at the Botanical Gardens. It was simple, sweet, and did not cost a fortune. I adored him for that, for not feeling the need to impress me, for believing that a picnic and his grandmother's ring were the height of romance. And they were. The wedding was intimate, taking place in September of 2023 with only 40 guests. I covered all the expenses myself. I told Ryan I had been saving for years and wanted to treat us. The venue cost $8,000. I had spent more than that on a handbag just the month before, but he was unaware of that fact. Barbara found fault with every single one of my decisions. My dress was supposedly too modern. The flowers were apparently too expensive. The venue was far too casual. Why were we not getting married in a proper church? What would everyone think? At the reception, she delivered a toast that concluded with, "Welcome to our family, Sarah. I truly hope you will be a devoted wife to my son. And always remember, family comes first." The way she emphasized the word family made her meaning perfectly clear. She was referring to her family, not to me. Despite all that, the first year of our marriage was genuinely wonderful. Ryan was everything I had ever wanted in a partner. We shared so much laughter. We took small trips that he believed I was financing with credit cards. I treated him to trips to Maine, Charleston, and Nashville. We started to build a beautiful life together. I almost forgot that I was living a complete fabrication, almost. We were renting a small, charming house with 3 bedrooms, about 1,500 square feet. The detail Ryan did not know was that I actually owned it through a shell company, essentially paying rent to myself. I had purchased the entire neighborhood as an investment back in 2020. Our life together was simple and normal. I kept up with my freelance work, which involved disappearing into my office for hours at a time. Ryan assumed I was writing marketing content, but in reality, I was managing a billion-dollar empire through video conferences with my top executives. I truly believed I could maintain this balance forever. I thought I could exist as 2 separate people, the billionaire chief executive officer and the ordinary wife. Then, I became pregnant, and my entire world shifted. It was March of 2024. I had been feeling completely drained and nauseous. I took a pregnancy test at home, and it was positive. I took 3 more just to be certain, and all of them came back positive. I immediately scheduled an appointment with my doctor. The ultrasound changed the course of my life. "Congratulations," Dr. Patterson announced. "You are expecting twins." My brain felt like it had short-circuited. Twins? I was not even prepared for 1 baby, let alone 2. But then I saw them right there on the screen. 2 tiny shapes, 2 flickering heartbeats, and I felt something inside my chest break wide open. I began to cry. They were tears of joy, but also tears of pure terror. I felt every emotion at once. Then the doctor added, "There is one small concern. You have a condition called placenta previa. This means the placenta is covering your cervix. It is possible it will resolve on its own as your pregnancy moves forward, but for now, you are considered high risk. You will need to take things extremely easy. That means no heavy lifting, keeping stress to a minimum, and getting plenty of rest." I shared the news with Ryan that evening. He was absolutely ecstatic. He lifted me off the ground and spun me around, only setting me down gently after I reminded him about the high-risk diagnosis. Twins, he kept repeating in disbelief. We are going to have twins. Then his expression suddenly changed. Wait a second. Can we actually afford this? Daycare for 2 infants is incredibly expensive. We will find a way, I assured him. I desperately wanted to tell him the truth in that moment, to let him know that money would never be a problem for us. But those old fears held me back. What if knowing the truth changed him? What if he started to look at me in a different way? And so, once again, I kept my secret. We broke the news to his family 2 weeks later, during Sunday dinner at the Mitchell house. Barbara had prepared a pot roast. We waited until everyone had finished eating. Mom, Melissa, Sarah, and I have some news. We are pregnant with twins. The silence that followed was so thick you could feel it. Tom managed to smile and said, "Congratulations." Melissa's face turned pale before she managed to force a smile. "Oh, wow. That is just great." Barbara placed her fork down on her plate with deliberate slowness. "Twins?" she echoed. "Yes, we are just so thrilled," Ryan began to say. "How do you intend to afford 2 babies, Ryan? Your current salary can barely handle your mortgage payments." "Mom, I am trying to be realistic here. Daycare alone will cost $2,000 a month for each child. Then there is formula, diapers, and doctor appointments. Have you actually considered any of this?" "We will manage," I attempted to interject. She turned her attention directly to me. "Will you continue to work, or are you just expecting my son to support you while you stay home and play house?" "That is not fair," Ryan said. "What is not fair," Barbara retorted, her voice getting louder, "is trapping my son with 2 babies when you can hardly even support yourself." I felt as though I had been physically slapped across the face. "Excuse me. You heard me correctly. The timing of this is awfully convenient, is it not? You have been married for less than a year, and suddenly you find yourself pregnant with twins. You planned this. You trapped him." Ryan immediately stood up. "Mom, that is enough." "Oh, is it?" It seems I am the only one with the courage to say what everyone else is thinking. She is a gold digger who got pregnant on purpose just to lock you down. I stood up, my body trembling with rage. "I am leaving." Ryan followed me out of the house. In the car, I broke down crying. He tried to comfort me, holding me close. "She did not really mean it. She is just shocked. She will come around." But she did mean it, and she did not come around. This was only the beginning of the nightmare. 2 weeks after that disastrous dinner, Barbara arrived at our house unannounced with suitcases in hand. "I am moving in," she declared. "You are high risk, Sarah. You are going to need help. Family helps family." I glanced at Ryan, expecting him to refuse. He looked clearly uncomfortable, but only said, "Mom, we did not discuss this. I am your mother. I should not have to get permission to help with my own grandchildren." And with that, she settled into our guest room. That was near the end of April in 2024. What came next was 4 months of relentless psychological warfare. She never laid a hand on me. She never raised her voice. She was far more clever than that. She began to dismantle my life, piece by piece, so subtly that Ryan was completely oblivious to what was happening. First, she reorganized everything in the house. "Your kitchen is just so chaotic, dear. Let me help you with it." She discarded half of my groceries. "This food is not healthy for the babies." She then replaced it all with things that I could not stand. She completely took over all the cooking. Every single meal was something she wanted to prepare. Next was my bedroom. "You need to be sleeping downstairs. The stairs are too dangerous for you in your condition." She moved me into the guest room, which was the smallest and dampest room in the entire house. She and Tom then moved into our master bedroom. It is just until the babies arrive. She started going through my personal mail. I am just trying to help you get organized. She would ask intrusive questions about my bank accounts. What if something were to happen to you? Ryan should be listed on all of your accounts in case of an emergency. I refused. That was my first true act of rebellion. No, my accounts are my own private business. Her eyes turned ice cold. What exactly are you trying to hide, Sarah? Nothing at all. I just happen to believe in financial independence. How interesting. Most wives have enough trust in their husbands. She began answering my phone. Sarah is unable to talk at the moment. She needs to get her rest. My clients started being sent to voicemail. Eventually, some of them stopped trying to call me at all. My freelance business was crumbling, but I could not tell anyone that I did not actually depend on it. She scrutinized everything I ate. That has too much sugar, too much salt, too many calories. I was hungry all the time, but became afraid to eat inside my own house. She made constant remarks about my body. You are gaining so much weight. Are you certain you are not eating for 3 people? Your face looks so puffy. You really need to be more careful. It is very difficult to lose weight after a twin pregnancy. I was only 17 weeks pregnant, and I was starting to develop an eating disorder. But the most painful part of it all was the isolation. She actively discouraged my friends from coming to visit. Sarah needs her rest, not a bunch of social calls. When my friend Emma attempted to visit, Barbara told her, "Now is not a very good time. Sarah is not feeling well today." Emma sent me a text message asking, "Are you okay? Your mother-in-law is acting like a gatekeeper." I lied to her. "I am fine, just feeling tired. I will call you soon." But I never called, because Barbara was always there, listening to every word, watching my every move. Sometime around the 4th month of my pregnancy, in June of 2024, Ryan began to change. I would catch him looking at me in a different way, with suspicion and doubt in his eyes. He was no longer affectionate and stopped sleeping in the same room with me. "You need your rest," he would say, but I could hear Barbara's influence in his words. I would overhear them, whispering together in the kitchen, late into the night. Barbara would say things like, "I am just saying, son, that the timing is very convenient. She became pregnant right after the wedding. That does not seem right. And she is so incredibly secretive. Have you ever stopped to wonder what she might be hiding? She is not hiding anything. Then why will she not allow you to be on her bank accounts? What kind of a wife behaves like that?" Melissa was now visiting constantly. She had moved back in with Barbara and Tom following her divorce. She was at our house every single day, adding her own brand of poison to Barbara's. "I am just so worried about Ryan," she would say, just loud enough for me to overhear. Sarah seems to have so many secrets. What if those babies do not even belong to him? I finally confronted Ryan one night. "Your mother and your sister are poisoning you against me. They are just concerned." "Concerned about what? I have not done anything wrong." "Then why will you not let me look at your bank statements? Because they are mine. Because I have a right to some privacy in my own marriage. Most marriages do not have secrets, Sarah. I am not keeping secrets from you. I am maintaining boundaries. There is a significant difference." But he was unable to see that difference. He pulled further and further away from me with each passing day. He started to work late, often coming home after I had already fallen asleep and leaving before I woke up. We were living like roommates, not like a husband and wife. In early July, I started to notice strange things. There was a car parked across the street that seemed to be there far too often. I felt like someone was following me to my doctor's appointments. I saw a man with a camera at the grocery store. I was being followed. I confronted Barbara directly. "Did you hire someone to follow me?" She did not even try to deny it. "I am protecting my son. If you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to worry about. This is completely insane." What is insane is a woman who refuses to share her financial information with her own husband. What is insane is all of this secrecy. What are you hiding? Sarah, I confronted Ryan directly. Your mother hired a private investigator to spy on me. He shifted uncomfortably, but offered no defense. Instead, he asked, "Well, did you give her a reason to be suspicious?" I stared at him in disbelief. "I am your wife. I am carrying your children. That should be all the reason you need to trust me." He just shook his head. "Then prove it. Let me see your bank statements." I refused. "No." "Why not?" he pressed. "Because the moment I showed him, the life we were pretending to have would shatter. He would finally know my secret, and I wasn't ready. I was desperately trying to hold on to the dream of a normal marriage. So, I said nothing, and my silence became my confession in his eyes. That was July 28th, 2024. I was 24 weeks pregnant. I remember that date because it was the day I nearly lost everything. My doctor, Dr. Patterson, had put me on modified bed rest. "You have to take it easy, Sarah," she warned. "Your placenta still hasn't moved into the right position. We are watching for any signs of placental abruption. If you have any bleeding or cramping, you must call me right away." But my mother-in-law, Barbara, had no time for doctor's orders. "Bed rest?" she scoffed. "Women in my generation worked in the fields until their water broke. This is just ridiculous. You're being lazy." That afternoon, she shoved a heavy basket of laundry into my hands. "Take this upstairs. The dryer just finished." I hesitated. "I am not supposed to lift anything." "You are pregnant, not an invalid," she snapped. "Stop being so dramatic." Ryan was not home. My father-in-law, Tom, was out in his workshop. But my sister-in-law, Melissa, was there, perched on the couch, casually scrolling through her phone. I struggled with the basket up the stairs. It was far too heavy, and I felt a sharp, pulling sensation in my stomach. I finally reached the top of the staircase and started to turn toward the laundry room. That is when Melissa suddenly appeared right behind me. "Oh, Sarah, I needed to ask you something." She bumped into me, hard from behind. It was a deliberate shove. I stumbled forward, losing my grip. The laundry basket went flying through the air. I lunged for the railing, grabbing it with both hands just in time. For a terrifying second, I was suspended in air, about to tumble headfirst down 15 stairs. My babies, my precious babies, were about to. I clung to the railing, my body frozen in shock. Melissa stood at the top of the stairs, looking down at me. "Oh my God, I am so sorry," she exclaimed. "Are you okay? You really need to be more careful on these stairs. They are so dangerous." But her eyes told a different story. They were cold, empty, and calculating. She had done it on purpose. She had tried to make me fall. She had tried to kill my babies. I could not even speak. "What?" she said, feigning innocence. "It was an accident. You are so clumsy, Sarah. Maybe you should not be carrying heavy things if you cannot handle them." That night, the contractions started. They were sharp and painful. Ryan rushed me to the hospital. I was consumed by terror. 24 weeks was too early. Far too early. Please, God, no. Dr. Patterson examined me. "The babies seem okay," she said, to my immense relief. "Their heartbeats are strong, but you have had some cervical changes. You are at risk for preterm labor. I am putting you on strict bed rest now. No stairs, no lifting, and absolutely no stress." When we returned home, I told Ryan what Melissa had done. "She bumped into you," he said, completely dismissing my fear. "Sarah, that does not mean she did it on purpose. She tried to make me fall, Ryan. You are being paranoid." "I am pregnant, and your sister just tried to kill your unborn children." Barbara overheard us and stormed into the room. "Melissa would never do such a thing. How dare you accuse her of something so horrible? You fell because you were not being careful." It is time you took responsibility for your own actions. I looked at Ryan, my heart breaking, waiting for him to defend me, to protect me, to be my husband. He just looked away. That night, I cried alone in the guest room until I could no longer breathe. And then, I stopped crying. I pulled out my secret phone, the one Barbara knew nothing about, and called my friend Emma. "I need you to install cameras," I said, my voice steady. "Hidden ones, in every room except the bathrooms and our bedrooms. I need audio recording too. Everything. And I need it done tomorrow while they are all at church." "Miss Sarah, what is going on?" she asked, worried. "Just do it," I pleaded. "Please." The next day on Sunday morning, while the Mitchell family was at worship, a team of professionals came into the house. They installed cameras and audio devices in the living room, the kitchen, the dining room, and all the hallways. The devices were expertly disguised as smoke detectors, picture frames, and electrical outlet covers. From that moment on, I documented every single thing that happened in that house. I was building my case. By early August, I was in my 7th month of pregnancy and on strict bed rest, but Barbara still forced me to clean, cook, and serve the family. "That doctor is just being overly cautious," she would say. "You are perfectly fine." One afternoon, Tom found me in the kitchen. I was on my hands and knees, scrubbing the floor where Barbara had intentionally spilled a glass of juice and demanded I clean it up. Tears of pain were streaming down my face. My back was in agony. I was 29 weeks pregnant with twins, scrubbing a floor like a servant. Tom knelt beside me. "Sarah, stop this," he said gently. "This is wrong." I looked up at him, my eyes pleading. "Then help me. Please tell Ryan what is happening here." "I see it," he said, his voice filled with sympathy. "I see what Barbara is doing. This has gone too far." A wave of hope washed over me. "Will you talk to him? Will you tell him the truth?" "I will," he promised. "I am going to make this right." I actually believed him. For the first time in months, I felt like I had an ally, someone in the house who could see the truth and was willing to help me. The next day, Tom pulled Ryan aside for a private conversation. I waited in my room, my heart filled with hope. I thought maybe, just maybe, this nightmare was finally coming to an end. Maybe Tom would be the voice of reason that Ryan needed to hear. An hour later, Ryan burst into my room. He was absolutely furious. "You are trying to turn my father against his own wife," he yelled. "What? No, He told me everything," he continued, his voice shaking with rage. "He told me how you have been complaining about Mom behind her back, how you are trying to split up this family, how you want to push them out of our lives." My stomach dropped like a stone. "That is not what I said. My father does not lie, Sarah," he spat. "But you do. You have been lying this entire time." Tom had betrayed me. He had gone straight to Barbara and told her everything I had said, and Barbara, in her manipulative way, had twisted my words and turned me into the villain. Later that day, I saw Tom in the hallway. He could not even bring himself to look at me. "Why?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. He stared down at his shoes. "I am sorry," he mumbled. "Barbara said if I took your side, she would divorce me. She would take the house, all the money, everything. She swore she would make sure I never saw my grandchildren. I could not do it. I am so sorry." He walked away, leaving me standing there, and I realized then that I was completely and utterly alone. No one was coming to save me. Not Ryan, not Tom, not anyone. If I wanted to survive this, I would have to save myself. The private investigator Barbara had hired, a man named Derek Thompson, followed me everywhere I went. He was there at my doctor's appointments, at the grocery store, and even during the short walks around the block I was allowed to take. He could not find anything because there was nothing to find. I was playing the part of the perfect, pregnant housewife, or at least the perfect prisoner. I overheard Barbara on the phone one day, sounding frustrated. "There is nothing, absolutely nothing," she complained. "Keep looking. There has to be something. Nobody is this clean." But I was. At least, the version of me they knew, Sarah the copywriter, was. That version of me was boring, broke, and completely faithful. In late August, when I was 32 weeks pregnant, I overheard a conversation that made my blood run cold. Barbara, Melissa, and Tom were in the living room. I was supposed to be napping, but I had a small, hidden recorder in my pocket, another one of my little secrets. I heard Melissa say, "The investigator found nothing. Maybe she really is faithful to him." Barbara replied with a sneer, "Or maybe she is just very smart. But Ryan needs to see her for what she truly is. He needs a reason to doubt her." "What are you suggesting?" Melissa asked. Barbara's voice was chilling. "What if we created a reason?" Tom started to protest. "Barbara, you cannot seriously be suggesting—" Barbara cut him off sharply. "I am suggesting that we protect our son by any means necessary." I felt sick to my stomach. They were planning something terrible. I did not know what it was yet. I should have left then. I should have grabbed my emergency bag, called Emma, and just disappeared. But I was 32 weeks pregnant with twins, and I was terrified. I was terrified of going into labor all alone. I was terrified of the legal battles over custody that would surely happen if I left before the babies were born. And I was afraid that running away would make me look guilty of something I had not even done. So, I stayed. And that was the biggest mistake of my life. Melissa knew a guy, a tech expert named Connor Briggs, who had been fired from a company called Blake Holdings 2 years earlier for stealing company secrets. He was bitter, broke, and willing to do just about anything for money. What I did not find out until much later was that Melissa paid him $15,000 to create fake evidence, showing that I was having an affair. This was not just a simple case of Photoshop. Connor was an expert. He created sophisticated, deepfake images using real photos of me he found on my social media accounts. He swapped my face into intimate scenarios with a male model. The metadata on the photos looked completely legitimate because he knew exactly how to fake it. He had worked in the tech industry for years before his life fell apart. But the images alone were not enough for them. They needed more. So, they also created fake profiles on dating apps using my real photos. They bought a burner phone and fabricated entire text conversations. They created fake GPS data that showed me checking into hotels. Connor even temporarily hacked into my phone to pull my real location data, which he then altered. They had receipts from restaurants and hotels with my signature on them. Melissa had spent weeks practicing how to forge my signature. And to top it all off, they had a witness. Melissa's friend, Ashley, agreed to lie and say that she had seen me out with another man. It was an elaborate, expensive, and calculated plot. They were building a case to completely destroy me. On September 15th, I was 35 weeks pregnant. I was enormous, completely exhausted, and in constant pain. It felt like the babies were sitting on every single one of my internal organs. I could not sleep. I could not walk more than 20 feet without needing to sit down. Barbara came into my room that evening. She was holding her phone, and her face was glowing with triumph. "We need to have a family meeting," she announced. "Right now." "I am tired," I said weakly. "Now, Sarah?" Ryan was called home from work. Tom was summoned from his workshop. Melissa appeared from her room. They all gathered in the living room, and I was forced to sit in a chair in the middle of the room, like a defendant at a trial. Barbara held up her phone. "The private investigator sent his final report today," she said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. My heart started pounding in my chest. He found something very interesting. She scrolled through a series of photos. They were photos of me, except they were not me, but it looked just like me, in a hotel room with a man I had never seen before. Kissing him, in bed with him. What is that? I whispered, horrified. That, Barbara said, her voice full of venom, is proof that you have been cheating on my son. Those are not real, I pleaded. Those are fake. See, they... Melissa then stepped forward. And there is more, she said. She showed her phone. It showed screenshots of dating app profiles from OkCupid, Tinder, and Bumble, all featuring my photos and my name. There were even explicit messages sent to different men. I had never seen these before. I do not even have those apps on my phone. Ryan was looking at a piece of paper. Your phone's location data shows you were at the downtown Marriott 7 times in the past 4 months. You told me you were at doctor appointments. I was at doctor appointments, I insisted. These are fakes. Someone completely made them up. There's a witness, Barbara said softly. Ashley Clark. She works at the hotel. She saw you there with a man multiple times. She confirmed it was you. The room felt like it was spinning. They had thought of every little detail. Their story was perfect. It was brilliant, and it was a complete lie. Ryan, please, I begged, taking a step toward him. He immediately stepped back. Do not touch me. Those photos are deep fakes. Someone created them using artificial intelligence. Please, if you just look closely. I have looked, he said, his voice completely empty. I have looked at all of it. The photos, the messages, all the evidence. It is just too much, Sarah. It is fabricated, I was screaming now. Your mother and sister are framing me. They want to get rid of me. They hired someone to do this. Listen to yourself, Barbara said calmly. You sound insane, paranoid. Maybe the pregnancy hormones are affecting your mental state. I am not crazy. I am being set up. Ryan refused to even look at me. I want a DNA test after the babies are born. Until we know for sure that they are mine, I do not want you anywhere near me. They are your sons. Are they? He finally met my gaze, and I saw pure hatred in his eyes. Because right now, Sarah, I do not know what to believe. I do not know who you are. I do not even know if I ever did. He turned and walked out. Barbara just smiled. Melissa stared down at her phone. Tom just stared at the floor. And I stood there, 8 months pregnant. I was being called a cheater, a liar, and an unfaithful wife. And I had absolutely no way to prove my innocence. And because the evidence they had created against me was perfect. It was fake, but it was flawless. That night, at 35 weeks pregnant, I called my lawyer, David Harrison. I need to leave now. I need a safe house, a security team, and you need to draft divorce papers. I will have everything ready in 48 hours, he promised. Make it 24. I packed a small bag and hid it in the trunk of my car, underneath the spare tire. I had a plan. The next morning, everyone would be at church, just like they were every single Sunday. I would wait for them to leave, drive to Charlotte, meet David and Emma at a hotel, and have the babies there in safety. I just had to get through one more day. Sunday morning, September 17th, I heard them all getting ready for church. I waited in my room, listened for the front door to open, and heard the car start. I gave it 10 more minutes just to be safe. Then I stood up, grabbed my purse, and headed for the door. Melissa was standing right there in the hallway, as if she was on her way somewhere. My heart completely stopped. I thought you went to church. I decided to stay home. I noticed she was holding something. It was my bag, the bag from my car trunk. I found this yesterday when I borrowed your car. What exactly were you planning, Sarah? Barbara then appeared from the kitchen, and Ryan came in from the garage. They had never left. It was all a trap. You were running away, Barbara said. You were going to take those babies and just disappear. They are my babies. We will see about that. Ryan, call our lawyer. Within minutes, Ryan was on the phone. Barbara took my car keys, my phone, and my purse from me. You are not going anywhere, she said. Not until those babies are born and we have them tested. And if they are not Ryan's, you will leave here with nothing. No babies, no dignity, absolutely nothing. They forced me down into the basement, the cold, damp, and moldy, unfinished basement, and they put a lock on the outside of the door. It is for your own good, Barbara told me. You are clearly unstable, planning to run away with babies that might not even be part of this family. We are just protecting you from yourself. The door slammed shut, and I heard the lock click into place. I was trapped. I was 35 weeks pregnant and locked in a basement. I had no phone, no way to escape, and no hope. I sat down on the cold concrete floor and realized what was going to happen. They were going to keep me down here until I gave birth. Then they were going to take my babies away and throw me out on the street. And there was not a single thing I could do to stop it. This was my moment of pure despair. I was powerless, completely and utterly powerless. On September 24th, at 3 in the morning, now 37 weeks pregnant, I woke up in the basement feeling a searing pain. It was contractions, real ones, coming every 3 minutes. I had been having Braxton Hicks for weeks, but this was entirely different. This was the real thing. I was locked in a basement, about to give birth all by myself. I screamed for help. I pounded on the door with all my strength. Help! Somebody please help me! The babies are coming! There was nothing. No response. The house above me was completely silent. I screamed even louder and pounded harder on the door. Please, I am in labor. Please! Finally, I heard footsteps. The lock turned, and the door opened. Barbara stood there in her bathrobe, looking completely annoyed. Stop being so dramatic. You are not due for another 3 more weeks. I am having contractions 3 minutes apart. The babies are coming now. It is just false labor. You are fine. Go back to sleep. I am not fine. Another contraction ripped through me. I doubled over and screamed in agony. Barbara just watched me for a second, then she closed the door. I heard the lock click again. She had left me there. I have no idea how long I screamed. Time just became meaningless. All I knew was the pain, the terror, and the absolute certainty that I was going to give birth alone in a cold basement. My babies might die. I might die, and nobody even cared. Sometime around 4 o'clock, I remembered something. I had found an old iPad in the basement a while back. It did not have a SIM card, but it could connect to the Wi-Fi. I crawled over to it, my hands shaking uncontrollably, with contractions now coming every 2 minutes. I managed to open the browser, typed in 911.gov, and found the text to 911 feature. I typed, I am in labor, 37 weeks pregnant with twins, high-risk pregnancy. I am locked in a basement. They will not let me out. Please send help. I added the address, 847 Maple Drive, Greenville. Please hurry. I hit the send button. I prayed that someone would see it. I prayed that help was on its way. 15 minutes later, though it felt like a lifetime, I heard sirens, then pounding on the front door. I could hear police and emergency medical technicians yelling, "Open up," from upstairs. I heard Barbara's voice saying, "There must be some kind of mistake." An emergency technician replied, "We got a 911 text from this address. Someone is in labor. Where is she?" There was more shouting, then I heard footsteps running down the basement stairs. The door burst open. Two paramedics stood there, just staring at me. I was 37 weeks pregnant, lying on a concrete floor in a basement, in active labor, and crying my eyes out. "Oh my God," one of them said. "How long have you been down here?" "A week," I gasped. As another contraction hit, I let out a scream. "Ma'am, we need to get you to the hospital right now." They carefully loaded me onto a stretcher. As they carried me upstairs, I saw the Mitchell family standing in the living room. Barbara, Jabeen, Melissa, and Ryan, all of them in their pajamas, looking completely shocked. Barbara tried to explain to the police officer, "She has been having some emotional problems. We were just trying to keep her safe." The officer looked at her with disgust. "You locked her in the basement while she was in labor?" One of the emergency technicians turned to the family and said, "When we are done at the hospital, we are filing a report with Child Protective Services. This is endangerment." Ryan's face turned completely white. "I gave birth at Greenville Memorial Hospital. The labor lasted 22 hours. Ryan finally showed up at hour 16. He was drunk. I could smell the whiskey on him from across the room." "Are you seriously drunk right now?" the nurse asked him. "I needed something to calm my nerves," he mumbled. He looked at me with those same cold eyes. "When this is over, we are doing that DNA test today." I was in far too much pain to argue. Another contraction took over, and I screamed. "Do you want me to leave?" he asked. "Yes," I managed to get out. "Get out." He left, and he did not come back. At 2:37 in the morning on September 25th, my son Logan entered the world. He was 6 pounds, 2 ounces. Perfect. At 2:51 in the morning, my son Lucas followed. He was 5 pounds, 14 ounces. Also perfect. I held them both in my arms and just cried. They were so small, so perfect, and they were so mine. "Hi, babies," I whispered. "Hi, I am your mama. I am so sorry. I am so sorry for everything you have already been through. But Mama is here. Mama has got you now, and I promise you, I am going to protect you no matter what it takes." The nurse asked me if I wanted to call anyone. "My husband was already here," I said quietly. He left. "Yes," she replied, looking at me with so much sadness in her eyes. "I am so sorry, honey. Do you have anyone else?" I thought about calling Emma, but my phone was still back at the house. They had taken everything from me. "No," I whispered. "It is just us." So, I sat there in that hospital room, all alone with my newborn sons. There were no flowers, no balloons, no family, and no celebration. It was just me and them against the world. I stayed in the hospital for 4 days to recover from the C-section. The babies were healthy but small, so the doctors kept us for observation. Barbara visited one time. On day 2, she walked into my room, looked at the babies sleeping in their bassinet, and said, "They have the Mitchell nose. That does not prove anything, though. We are still doing the DNA test." She did not hold them. She did not ask for their names. She did not congratulate me. She was gone after just 5 minutes. Melissa sent a text. It said, "Hope you and the bastards are doing well," followed by a smiley face emoji. Ryan came by on day 3, sober this time. He just stood in the doorway, looking at his sons. "Have you picked out names?" "Logan and Lucas," I told him. He just nodded. "Good names." There was a long, awkward silence. "Ryan, do not. Just do not." "We will do the DNA test when you get home," he said. "Until then, I do not want to get attached to children that might not even be mine." And then he walked out. A social worker came to see me that afternoon. "Ms. Mitchell, I have to ask, are you safe at home?" I wanted to scream, "No!" I wanted to tell her everything. About the basement, the lock on the door, the abuse, the fabricated evidence, all of it. But if I told her, what would happen? They would start an investigation. They might even take my babies away and put them in foster care while they tried to sort everything out. I could not risk that. So I lied. Yes, I am safe. It is just complicated family dynamics. She looked at me for a very long time. Moment. I knew she could see I was not telling the truth, but she had no way to prove it. She said, "If you need help, here is a card for domestic abuse resources." I took the card, slid it into my pocket, and nodded. When she left, I was by myself again. On day 4, September 29th, it was time for my discharge. I phoned the house and said, "I am ready to be picked up." Barbara replied, "We are busy. Take a taxi." I had just been through a C-section. I had 2 newborn infants. I could not take a taxi. She hung up on me. I had to call a taxi on my own. The driver helped me secure the car seats I had purchased before my sons were born. I sat in the back with my 10-day-old twins next to me. I was still bleeding from the surgery and could hardly walk, taking a taxi home from the hospital. When we arrived at the house, everything was dark. There were no lights on, and nobody was waiting for me. The taxi driver seemed worried. "Do you need help getting inside, ma'am?" "No, thank you." He assisted me in carrying the babies to the front porch. I used the last of my cash to pay him, and I watched his car disappear down the street. Then I unlocked the door to my own home and walked straight into a nightmare. No one had made any preparations. The cribs I had bought were still sitting in their boxes, waiting to be assembled. There was no one to welcome me, no one to help me, just nothing. I placed the babies, still in their car seats, in the living room because it felt like the safest spot. Then I started the task of putting the cribs together by myself. I was only 10 days past a C-section. My stitches were pulling, and I felt faint from losing so much blood. The process took me 3 hours. I was crying for most of that time. During that first night, Logan and Lucas needed to eat every 90 minutes. I was trying to breastfeed them, but it was incredibly difficult and painful. They were not latching properly. I was completely exhausted, all alone, and in terrible pain. Barbara came into my room at 6 o'clock in the morning. She said, "You have to be quieter. Your crying is waking everybody up." I told her, "I am not crying. The babies are crying. They are hungry, and I am trying to feed them." "Then you need to figure it out. And after you are done, the kitchen needs to be cleaned." She continued, "There is laundry waiting in the machine. The living room is a disaster." I said, "I just went through major surgery." She shot back, "Women in my generation were back at their jobs the very next day. Stop being so lazy." Then she turned and left. I sat there, holding my 2 babies, and a horrible realization washed over me. They expected me to handle absolutely everything: the babies, the house, the entire family, all while I was supposed to be recovering from a C-section, still bleeding, and barely able to stand. I had no other option, so I did it. The days all started to blend into one long nightmare. On day 2, I cooked breakfast for the whole family while holding a crying baby in one arm. My stitches felt like they were on fire. I was almost certain an infection was starting. On day 3, Barbara slammed my bedroom door shut while both babies were finally asleep. They woke up and started screaming. I shot her an angry look, and she just smiled. Sorry, I did not realize they were sleeping. On day 4, I was attempting to pump breast milk. It required 30 minutes of effort just to get enough for a single feeding. I had just filled 2 bottles when Melissa came into the kitchen. She picked up both bottles and poured all the milk down the drain. "Oops, my hand slipped," she said. I just stared at her, speechless. "That took me an hour to pump," she replied. I guess you will have to do it again. Or maybe you should buy formula instead. You know, with the money you do not have." She walked away laughing. On day 5, I ran out of diapers. I asked Ryan to buy some on his way home from work. He did not. He claimed he forgot. I had to resort to using torn t-shirts until I could make it to the store the following day. On day 6, my C-section stitches were clearly infected. The area was red, hot to the touch, and oozing. I knew I needed antibiotics. I told Barbara about it. She dismissed me, saying, "You are fine. Stop being so dramatic." By day 7, I had not slept for more than 45 minutes at a time in a week. I began to hallucinate, seeing shadows move in the corners of my eyes. I dropped a bottle, and it shattered on the floor. I stood there, staring at the broken pieces, unable to remember what I was supposed to do next. Ryan walked in at that moment. "Clean that up. You are making a mess." I looked at him, at this man who looked like my husband but felt like a complete stranger, and I felt nothing at all. On day 8, October 7th, at 3 in the morning, I was back in the basement. They had moved me down there, claiming the babies were too noisy upstairs. I was trying to feed Lucas, while Logan screamed in his bassinet. My C-section infection was out of control now. My fever was 103 degrees. I was shivering, dizzy, and barely conscious. Both of my babies were crying. I could not recall the last time I had eaten, had a drink of water, or slept. My eyes drifted to the water heater in the corner of the basement. Natural gas. I could see the valve. It would only take 10 seconds, just 10 seconds. The thought crossed my mind. It would be so easy. Just turn the valve, lie down with my babies, and fall asleep. I could end this terrible nightmare. All of us could be peaceful together, far away from all this horror. Logan was crying. Lucas was crying. I was crying too. My entire body hurt. The situation felt completely impossible. I started to move my hand toward the valve, but then Logan stopped crying. He looked directly at me with his large blue eyes, the same eyes as Ryan, and he made a soft cooing sound. In that instant, something inside me broke apart and came back together, stronger than before. "No," I whispered to myself. "No, Mama is not giving up. Mama is going to fight. Mama is going to get us out of here." I gathered the very last bit of my strength and began to pound on the door. I pounded and screamed for 20 minutes, without stopping, until my hands were raw. At last, Melissa opened the door. "What is your problem?" Then she saw me. She saw the high fever, the blood that had soaked through my clothes, and she saw the baby screaming. For a brief moment, even she looked frightened. "I need to go to a hospital. The infection. I am dying. Please." She called for Barbara. Barbara called 911, but she told them, "My daughter-in-law is being dramatic about some pain, but perhaps you should check on her for the sake of the babies." The ambulance arrived for the second time in just 10 days. At the hospital, the emergency room doctor was enraged. "Your C-section incision is severely infected. You have sepsis. You could have died. Who has been monitoring this for you? Where's your follow-up care? I was too busy." "Too busy? You just had major surgery. Where's your family? Where's your support system?" The social worker visited me again. "Mrs. Mitchell, this is the second time we have seen you in 2 weeks. On both occasions, there have been clear signs of neglect. I need you to be honest with me now. Are you being abused?" I looked over at my babies sleeping in the hospital bassinet. I thought about what would happen if I admitted the truth. It would mean foster care, being separated from my children, and long legal battles. "No," I lied. "I am just not taking good enough care of myself. I will do better." I could tell she did not believe me, but she had no evidence. They gave me antibiotics through an IV, monitored me for 18 hours, cleaned and fixed my incision, and told me I needed to rest. Then they discharged me back to that house, back to the basement, and back to that living hell. I only had 2 days left until the midnight expulsion. 2 more days filled with the most intense abuse I had ever experienced in my life. And I had no clue that things were about to become even worse. On October 8th, the 9th day of my son's lives, Connor Briggs, the technology expert Melissa had hired, delivered his final package of evidence. It contained more deepfakes and more skillfully altered screenshots of Sarah's dating app activity that supposedly took place during my pregnancy. There was fake GPS data that showed me at hotels when I was actually at home, along with forged receipts and other items. But the most destructive piece of evidence was a fake video call recording. Connor had used deepfake technology to create a video of me engaging in a sexually explicit video call with another man. It appeared incredibly real. The technology was both amazing and terrifying. Barbara presented this video to Ryan that evening. I did not know any of this yet. I was downstairs in the basement with my babies, just trying to survive. Ryan watched the video. His face turned pale, then flushed with anger, and then became ice cold. I want her out of here tonight. What? Even Barbara seemed taken aback. Tonight? I want her out of my house tonight. Her and those children who are not mine. Ryan, it is getting late. I do not care. I want her gone right now, before I do something I will regret. Melissa sent a text message to Ashley, the witness, who provided a statement confirming she had seen me at various hotels 6 different times, which seemed to prove the affair. They now had everything they needed. Their case was perfectly sealed, completely convincing, and entirely made up. But they believed it. Or perhaps Ryan just wanted to believe it, because accepting that I cheated was far easier than admitting his own family was destroying an innocent woman. I was feeding Lucas while Logan was asleep when the basement door was thrown open. The entire family was standing there. Ryan, Barbara, Melissa, and Tom. All of them had faces twisted with pure hatred. My heart began to race in my chest. I knew something was terribly, terribly wrong. Melissa was the first to speak, holding her phone out as if it were a weapon. We know everything, Sarah. We have proof. The final proof. She showed me a video on her phone. It was a deepfake video of me, but it was not me. It looked exactly like me. On a video call with a man I had never seen, touching myself and saying things I would never, ever say. That is not me. That is fake. That is generated by artificial intelligence. Barbara began to scream at me. Liar! We have witnesses. We have all the evidence. We know you were cheating on my son for your entire pregnancy. Those babies, Melissa said, pointing a finger at Logan and Lucas, are not even Mitchell's. You brought bastards into our home. You have been lying to all of us. Ryan's face was like stone, cold and lifeless. I want a DNA test immediately. Ryan, please just listen to me. Look at these videos very closely. They are deep fakes. Somebody is trying to frame me. Somebody? Barbara let out a harsh laugh. You actually think there is some kind of conspiracy against you? Do you think we are all crazy? Or could it be, just maybe, that you are a cheater and a liar? Tom finally stepped forward. Ryan, perhaps we should wait until the morning to deal with this. No, Ryan said firmly. I want her out of here tonight. I held Logan even tighter and instinctively moved closer to the bassinet where Lucas was lying. It is the middle of the night. It is freezing outside. These are newborn babies. They are your newborn babies. Please, Ryan, whatever you believe I have done, please do not punish them for it. Melissa started to walk toward the bassinet. Maybe we should keep them here. We can get the DNA test done. If they are Mitchell's, then this is where they belong, but she needs to leave. A wave of pure terror washed over me. They were actually trying to take my babies away from me. No. I quickly scooped Lucas up from the bassinet. Now I was holding both of my boys in my arms. No, you will not touch them. They are mine. Barbara's face twisted up with fury. They are nothing. They are just the bastards from your whoring around. Get them out of here. This house. Get out! She lunged right at me, trying to snatch one of the babies from my arms. I spun around, shielding them with my body. Barbara's hand cracked against my face, a slap so hard my ears rang. Ryan managed to pull her back, yelling, "Mom, stop it!" But it was too late. She had struck me while I was holding my newborn sons. Tom swung the front door open, and the freezing December air flooded the room. The temperature had plunged to 28 degrees. "Out," he said, his voice flat. I looked at Ryan one last time. This was my husband. The father of my children. The man I loved so much that I had hidden my entire identity for him. They are only 10 days old, Ryan. 10 days. It is the middle of winter. Please, we can get a DNA test tomorrow. Just please, do not do this. For a brief moment, I saw something flicker in his eyes. It looked like doubt, or maybe regret, or even love. But then Barbara leaned in and whispered something to him, and his expression turned to stone. He walked over to me, put both hands on my shoulders, and shoved. I staggered backward toward the gaping doorway. I struggled to keep my balance, clutching my babies even tighter. They were wailing now, sensing the terror of the situation. "Ryan," I pleaded one last time. He shoved again with more force. Now I was out on the porch, the wind slicing through my thin clothes. As my babies screamed in the biting cold, Barbara filled the doorway. She stared directly into my eyes and spit. The glob of saliva hit my cheek, sickeningly warm. "You are nothing," she hissed at me. "You are trash, and trash belongs out on the street." The door slammed shut in my face. I heard the deadbolt turn, then another lock, and another. A moment later, the porch light clicked off. I stood alone in the freezing darkness, bleeding and exhausted, holding my 10-day-old sons. For a full 30 seconds, I was paralyzed. I could not think. I could not process the horror of what had just happened. My baby's skin was turning a blotchy red from the cold. They were crying hysterically. My feet were completely numb. Blood was trickling down my legs. The incision from my C-section was throbbing with a searing pain. I knew we were going to die out here. My babies were going to die. This was how it all ended. But then, something inside me shifted. Something changed completely. The tears stopped. I stared at that house, watching as the lights went out, one by one. My supposed family was climbing into their warm beds without giving a second thought to the woman and the 2 infants freezing to death on their front porch. And I felt a cold, hard knot form in my chest. It was not fear, and it was not despair. It was rage. A pure, focused, ice-cold rage. I whispered to my sons, "Mama has got you. Mama is going to make this right. I promise you, they will pay for this. Every single one of them." I managed to shift both babies into the crook of one arm, and with my free hand, I pulled my emergency phone from the diaper bag. This was the phone they knew nothing about. My real phone. The one connected to my real life. I dialed a single number. "David, it is me. I am ready. You need to come and get us. It is time. Sarah, what is going on? Where are you?" 847 Maple Drive. "I am outside. They threw us out. Me and the babies. We are freezing to death. Please, you have to hurry. I am 5 minutes away. Just hold on." I ended the call and wrapped my body around my sons, trying to shield them from the wind. I whispered to them, "Logan, Lucas, Mama promises you, you will never be cold again." You will never be scared again. You will never be hurt again. And the people who did this to us, they are going to wish they were never born." A pair of headlights cut through the darkness. A black Range Rover screeched to a halt at the curb. Emma leaped from the passenger seat as David got out of the driver's side. "Oh my God, Sarah." Tears were streaming down Emma's face. She immediately wrapped a thick blanket around me and the babies. David was already on his phone. "I need 2 pediatric emergency medical technicians at the Charlotte Plaza Hotel, Suite 4000, immediately. We have 2 10-day-old infants with exposure to freezing temperatures. They carefully helped us into the car." The heat was on full blast. Emma took one baby, and I held the other. They slowly began to quiet down as the warmth seeped into their little bodies. As we pulled away from the curb, I took one last look back at that house. I saw a curtain twitch in an upstairs window. Someone was watching us. Maybe it was Ryan. Maybe it was Barbara. I smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a woman who had just declared war. "David," I said, my voice steady and cold, "I want to ruin them. Completely, legally, and permanently. Is that something you can do?" He met my eyes in the rearview mirror. Yes, I can do that." "Then do it. I want you to spare nothing. Show them no mercy." "What about Ryan?" Emma asked softly. "He is still technically your husband." I looked down at Lucas, asleep in my arms, then at Logan, safe with Emma. My perfect, innocent boys, who had just been tossed out like garbage by their own father. "Especially Ryan," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I want him to truly understand what he has thrown away. I want that knowledge to haunt him every single day for the rest of his life." The woman known as Sarah, the copywriter, died on that porch tonight. Catherine Sarah Blake, the billionaire CEO, was back, and she was out for blood. We drove to Charlotte, a 30-minute drive from Greenville, the city where my real life was waiting. We went straight to the Charlotte Plaza Hotel, to the top floor. I owned the hotel, a detail the Mitchells were completely unaware of. David had already booked the presidential suite for us under a fake name. When we walked in, a full medical team was waiting. There was a private neonatal nurse, a pediatrician, and an obstetrician for me. The pediatrician checked Logan and Lucas thoroughly. "They are okay," he announced. "They have cold stress, but no hypothermia. They are going to be just fine." The obstetrician examined me next, her face grim as she looked at my infected C-section incision. "This is getting worse. You need intravenous antibiotics right away. You are also severely dehydrated, and you have lost a dangerous amount of blood. Mrs. Blake, you should be in a hospital." "I cannot," I told her. "Not yet. There is work I have to do first." She looked like she wanted to argue, but she saw the determination in my eyes and simply nodded. "Fine, but I am staying right here to monitor you." Emma took the babies. "I have got them," she said. "You need to rest." But I could not rest. Not yet. "David," I said, "conference room, now." Within 2 hours, my entire team was assembled in the suite's conference room. David Harrison, my family lawyer, Patricia Clark, my criminal attorney, James Rodriguez, my corporate attorney, Angela Thompson, my public relations specialist, Marcus Webb, my private investigator, and Catherine Lewis, my financial analyst. I walked into that room wearing a designer suit that Emma had brought for me. It was a pearl gray Armani, worth $4,000. I looked like a CEO again. I felt like myself again. Thank you all for coming on such short notice. Some of you have known me as Sarah Mitchell. As of tonight, that identity no longer exists. I am Catherine Sarah Blake, the CEO of Blake Holdings, and I need your help to destroy the people who just threw me and my newborn sons out into the freezing cold. I pressed a button on a remote. The screen behind me came to life. It showed photos of the entire Mitchell family. Target 1, Ryan Mitchell. Target 2, Barbara Mitchell. Target 3, Melissa Mitchell Hartley. Target 4, Thomas Mitchell. Marcus was the first to speak. Ma'am, I have already finished the comprehensive background investigation you ordered 2 months ago. This is what I have found. He displayed his findings on the screen. Ryan was employed by Hudson Property Management, a company my corporation owned. He was carrying $28,000 in credit card debt and had a $15,000 online gambling addiction. Barbara was living rent-free in a house that I owned, managed through a charity that I personally funded. She had embezzled $127,000 from her husband's business and was hiding it in a secret bank account in the Cayman Islands. Melissa's boutique was a tenant in a building that I own. She was $80,000 in business debt, and her ex-husband had filed a restraining order against her. Tom's consulting firm was only staying afloat because of contracts with my vendors. He also had gambling debts totaling $45,000. I leaned back, letting it all sink in. Their entire lives were funded by my money. Their very existence depended on my generosity, and they had just thrown me out to die in the cold. Patricia, my criminal attorney, spoke up. I have reviewed the video and audio recordings you sent. We have undeniable proof of child endangerment, false imprisonment, assault, fraud, conspiracy, forgery, and defamation. We can file criminal charges against every one of them. James, the corporate lawyer, added, and from a business perspective, we can fire Ryan, evict Barbara, terminate Melissa's commercial lease, and cancel all of Thomas's contracts. We can also report Barbara's embezzlement and have her offshore accounts frozen. Everything can be done legally and immediately. Angela, my public relations specialist, chimed in, and I can turn this into the biggest news story of the year. The headline writes itself. Billionaire CEO, living undercover as a housewife, is abused by her in-laws and cast out with her newborn twins. The video and audio evidence you have is absolutely devastating. This story will go global. I considered it for all of 3 seconds. Do all of it. I want every single action taken. I want them to wake up tomorrow and discover that their entire world has been demolished. I want it all legal, fully documented, and broadcast to the public. I want everyone on this planet to know what they did. David looked worried. Sarah, this is incredibly aggressive. We could resolve this quietly through the legal system. I do not want quiet. I want them to be publicly humiliated. I want them so utterly destroyed that their family name becomes a symbol of cruelty and ignorance. I want them to feel what it is like to lose everything you have in a single night, just like they tried to do to me. Patricia nodded. Then we will begin tomorrow, December 24th, Christmas Eve. I smiled. Perfect. Let them spend Christmas in hell. On the morning of Christmas Eve, December 24th, Ryan woke up at 6 o'clock to his phone ringing. It was his boss, telling him to get to the office immediately. He walked in at 7 o'clock. His boss's expression was grim. Ryan, Hudson Property Management has been acquired by Blake Holdings. We are under new ownership now. They have conducted an audit of all employees. Your employment is terminated, effective immediately, for violating the company's ethical conduct standards. You were recorded on video. Throwing your wife and newborn children out of your home into freezing temperatures. Blake Holdings has a zero-tolerance policy for domestic abuse. The color drained from Ryan's face. How could they know? Who told them? Your severance package will be $0 because you were terminated for cause. Security will now escort you from the building. Ryan was walked out of his job at 7:30 on Christmas Eve morning. No job, no severance pay, and no future prospects. When he got to his car, he found an envelope tucked under his windshield wiper. Inside were divorce papers, custody papers, and a short note. The babies are mine. You surrendered your rights as a father when you threw them out into the cold. The DNA test will prove it. The test results were attached, a 99.9% probability. You are the father. Congratulations. You have destroyed your own family. Signed, Sarah. Ryan sat in his car and felt the world spin. Over at the house, Barbara was fixing breakfast when the doorbell chimed at 8 in the morning. A courier stood there holding a certified letter. It was a notice of eviction. Your tenancy is terminated, it read, due to a fraudulent application for housing assistance. You have 72 hours to vacate the premises. Her hands trembled as she called the property management company. There has to be some kind of mistake. No mistake, ma'am, the voice on the other end said coldly. The building was recently acquired by Blake Properties, LLC. Your application was found to contain false information. You have 72 hours. Who is Blake Properties? I am not at liberty to disclose that, ma'am. She hung up the phone, shaking. Just 10 minutes later, another knock echoed through the house. It was the police. Barbara Mitchell? Yes, we have a warrant for your arrest on charges of embezzlement, fraud, and money laundering. They placed her in handcuffs and read her rights while Tom watched, completely stunned. They put his wife into the back of a police car on the morning of Christmas Eve. The judge set bail at $100,000, an amount Tom could never afford. So, she remained in jail. Meanwhile, Melissa was arriving to open her boutique at 9 when she saw the eviction notice posted on her door. Building condemned due to multiple code violations. All tenants must vacate immediately. She frantically called the building management. What violations are you talking about? The new owners conducted an inspection. There are fire code violations, electrical hazards, and mold. The new owner is Blake Commercial Properties. She rushed inside to save her merchandise, but found another envelope waiting for her. It was a civil suit for defamation, fraud, conspiracy, and emotional distress. The plaintiff was Catherine Sarah Blake. The damages sought were $2.5 million. Attached were screenshots from the deep-fake videos, bank records proving her payment to Connor Briggs, and copies of text messages between them. She had everything. Melissa crumpled to the floor, realizing they had all the proof they needed. That morning, Tom received 3 separate phone calls. His biggest clients were all terminating their contracts. Then, his bank called to inform him his business loan was being called in. Blake Financial Services had just acquired it. In the span of 3 hours, Tom lost 80% of his income and was now facing a 6-figure debt that was due immediately. He called Ryan in a panic. Something is happening. Someone is targeting our entire family. Ryan's voice sounded distant and empty. I know who it is. Who? Sarah. It has to be Sarah. She is doing all of this. Sarah? You mean your wife? The copywriter? How could she possibly have this kind of power? I do not think she is a copywriter, Dad. I do not think we ever really knew who she was. They all met at the house later that day. Tom, Melissa, and Ryan. Barbara was still in jail. They gathered in the same living room where they had schemed against me. The same room where they had called me trash. Tom was the first to speak. Someone with the last name Blake is trying to ruin us. Who in the world is Blake? Melissa whispered the name to him. Sarah's last name is Blake. A heavy silence filled the room. Ryan finally broke it. No, that is impossible, he said. She is a nobody. Did you ever actually look at her bank statements? Tom asked him. No. Did you ever really get to know her at all, Ryan? Ryan's composure finally shattered. Oh my God. What if we were wrong about everything? Melissa quickly grabbed her phone and searched for Catherine Blake, CEO. The results flooded the screen. There were articles from Forbes, features in business magazines, and countless photos. And in those photos was Sarah. But this was a different Sarah, one wearing designer power suits, standing before gleaming skyscrapers and accepting prestigious awards. Prop tech princess Catherine Blake takes her company public at just 28 years old. Billionaire CEO of Blake Holdings, valued at $1.8 billion. Catherine Blake, the youngest self-made female billionaire in the country. The phone slipped from Melissa's numb fingers. Oh no, oh no, no, this cannot be happening. Ryan snatched the phone, his eyes locked on the screen, on the image of his wife, his billionaire wife, whom he had thrown out into the freezing cold. This cannot be real. But it was. Every article, every photograph, every single detail confirmed it. Sarah Blake was actually Catherine Sarah Blake, a billionaire CEO, and they had called her trash. They had hurt her. They had thrown her and her children, his own children, out into the bitter cold because they believed she was a nobody. Tom finally said what they were all thinking. We are finished. We are completely and utterly finished. Ryan stared at the picture on Melissa's phone. Sarah? No. Catherine looked powerful, confident, and completely in control. He had tried to destroy her, and in doing so, he had given her every reason to destroy him in return, and she was only just beginning. On December 26th, 2 days after Christmas, an announcement was sent out at 8 in the morning. Blake Holdings CEO, Catherine Blake, will hold a press conference at 2 o'clock in the afternoon regarding recent events. All media are invited. National news outlets jumped on the story immediately. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, along with local news, stations, business reporters, and human interest. Journalists all started preparing. No one knew what the press conference was about. But Blake Holdings was a billion-dollar company, so any statement from Catherine Blake was major news. The event was held at the Charlotte Convention Center in the main hall, which had a capacity of 2,000 people. Every single seat was taken. I was in a hotel suite getting ready. Emma helped me get dressed in a white suit by Armani that was tailored perfectly. White represents purity, innocence, and the truth. My hair and makeup were done by professionals. I looked powerful, in command, and beautiful. The twins were safe and protected in the adjoining suite. With their nanny and a pediatrician, David walked in. Are you certain about this? Once you make this public, you can never take it back. I am certain. The videos are very intense. People are going to cry. This story is going to be everywhere. Good, I replied. I want it everywhere. I want the entire world to see what they did to me. I took one last look at my reflection in the mirror. This was the moment I would stop hiding, the moment I would take back all of my power. Let's go. I stepped onto the stage at exactly 2 o'clock. The entire room fell silent. Camera flashes went off like a fireworks display. I gazed out at a vast sea of faces, filled with journalists, cameras, and recording devices. I walked to the podium, adjusted the microphone, and stared directly into the cameras. My name is Catherine Sarah Blake. I am the founder and CEO of Blake Holdings, a property technology company currently valued at $1.8 billion. I am 32 years old. I built this company from the ground up after my parents passed away in a plane crash 7 years ago. I paused, letting that information settle in. I am also the woman you might have seen in videos that are now circulating on the internet. Videos of me being thrown out of my own home at midnight on December 23rd with my 10-day-old twin sons in 28-degree weather, all while I was still recovering from a C-section. Videos of me standing on a porch, bleeding and holding my screaming newborn babies, begging not to be discarded like a piece of trash. The room suddenly erupted with noise. Questions were being shouted from every corner. I raised my hand. Please, allow me to tell my story first. Then you will have a chance to ask questions. The room fell silent once more. 4 years ago, I met a man named Ryan Mitchell. I told them the whole story. I explained my decision to hide my wealth. The constant abuse I endured during my pregnancy, the fake evidence they created, being locked in the basement, the birth of my sons, and being thrown out of the house. As I spoke, the large screens behind me lit up with hidden camera footage and audio recordings. The room watched in stunned silence as Barbara poured my breast milk down the kitchen sink, as Melissa shoved me near the top of the stairs, and as Barbara locked me in the dark basement. They saw the family plotting to create false evidence against me, confronting me with it, and Barbara spitting right in my face. They watched as Ryan pushed me out the door, and as I stood on that cold porch with my babies in the freezing night. By the time it was over, half the people in the room were in tears. The other half looked absolutely furious. When the videos finished, I continued my story. They threw me out because they chose to believe fabricated evidence that I had cheated on my husband. They completely refused to listen to me when I denied it. They decided to believe lies instead of trusting the mother of their grandchildren. I paused to let my words sink in. What the Mitchell family did not know when they threw me out was that they were living in a house that I own. They were working for companies that I own. They were surviving on money that came directly from my own generosity. Their entire life was funded by me. Gasps and murmurs spread through the crowd. Ryan Mitchell was employed by a company that I own, and he had no idea. Barbara and Tom Mitchell were living rent-free in a house that I own through a charity program that I created and funded. Melissa Mitchell's boutique operates out of a building that I own. Their very survival was dependent on my kindness. I let that fact hang in the air. And how did they repay that kindness? By locking me in a basement, by creating false evidence of an affair, and by throwing me and my newborn sons out into the freezing cold on December 23rd, just 10 days after I had given birth by C-section, while I was bleeding, suffering from an infection, and could barely even walk. My voice became lower and harder. I am not a victim. I am a mother who will do anything to protect her children. I am a CEO who will not stand for abuse. I am a woman who refuses to be silenced or thrown away. I clicked to the next slide, which showed photos of Ryan, Barbara, and Melissa. Today, I am officially announcing divorce proceedings against Ryan Mitchell, and I will be seeking full custody of our sons. I am pursuing criminal charges of child endangerment against Ryan, Barbara, and Melissa Mitchell. There will be criminal charges of fraud and conspiracy against Melissa Mitchell for creating the deepfake evidence. Embezzlement charges will be filed against Barbara Mitchell for stealing $127,000 from her husband, and I will be filing civil suits for defamation and emotional distress against all of them. I am also terminating all business relationships with the Mitchell family. Finally, I am making a $5 million donation to establish the Haven House Foundation, which will be a shelter and support system for abused mothers and their children. The room erupted once again. I held up my hand one last time. I am sharing this story not just for revenge, although justice will be served. I am sharing it because abuse does not care how much money you have. Wealthy women are abused. Poor women are abused. Educated women are abused. This happens behind closed doors in both mansions and mobile homes. If you are in an abusive situation, please know this. Document absolutely everything. Always trust your instincts. Protect yourself legally. Find a safe way to leave. And please understand that you deserve so much better. You deserve to be safe, respected, and loved. Never settle for anything less. Thank you. I walked off the stage and into chaos. Within 30 minutes, my story was everywhere. My press conference became the #1 trending topic in the world, sparking headlines like Justice for Sarah, the Blake twins, billionaire abuse, and the Mitchell family. In just the first 24 hours, the videos gathered 200 million views. Every single network was running the story. They ran titles like Billionaire CEO, Hidden as Housewife, Reveals Shocking Abuse, and Family Throws Out CEO and Newborns. Some were just stunned, saying they did not know she was a billionaire. My face was everywhere, next to the words Blake, holding CEO's horrifying tale of domestic abuse. There were think pieces and opinion columns. A full-blown social media explosion occurred. Celebrities started tweeting their support for me. Oprah wrote, "This woman's strength is incredible." Reese Witherspoon added, "Every woman deserves better." Ellen DeGeneres reminded everyone that abuse happens in every community, at every income level. The Mitchells were trapped in their homes. Reporters surrounded their house, and somehow, their phone numbers were leaked. They received thousands of messages and even death threats, which I made sure to publicly condemn. Ryan made the mistake of trying to go to a grocery store, where he was instantly recognized. People started to confront him right there in the aisle. People yelled, "You threw out your own babies," someone pointed, saying, "There is a real man right there who throws his newborn sons out in the cold." Another person shouted, "Your wife was a billionaire, and you still treated her like trash." He fled the store without buying a single thing, went home, but there was no escape. Barbara, who was out on bail, attempted to defend her actions on Facebook. She wrote, "She was deceiving us." The comments completely destroyed her. One person replied, "So you abused a pregnant woman simply because she had money." Another wrote, "She was not deceiving you. She was testing you, and all of you failed." Someone else pointed out, "Those babies were only 10 days old, and you threw them out in 28-degree weather. You are a monster." In a single night, the Mitchells became social outcasts. Meanwhile, Blake Holdings' stock value actually rose by 12% right after the press conference. Investors were captivated by the story of a CEO who had conquered such immense adversity. They saw it as a sign of strong leadership. I was invited for interviews by all the major media outlets. I did a 60-minute special, an interview on Good Morning America, and an appearance on The Ellen Show. Soon after, I was on the cover of Time magazine. The headline read, "The CEO Who Fought Back." I transformed into a symbol that represented more than just wealth or revenge. I became a symbol of survival, of strength, and of the refusal to be silenced. The Mitchells, they also became symbols, but of cruelty, of ignorance, and of the consequences that come when you badly underestimate someone. Their family name was permanently tainted. 3 days after my story broke, on December 29th, the authorities made arrests. Barbara was formally charged with child endangerment, false imprisonment, assault, embezzlement, money laundering, and fraud. Melissa faced charges of child endangerment, conspiracy to commit fraud, and defamation. Ryan was charged with child endangerment and assault. Tom was the only one not criminally charged. He chose to cooperate fully, providing a complete deposition and agreeing to testify against Barbara. The trials moved forward quickly because the evidence against them was simply overwhelming. The videos I released were absolutely damning. During Barbara's trial, the prosecutor played the audio recording of her scheming to fabricate evidence against me. He then played the video of her spitting directly on me for the jury to see. A medical expert took the stand and testified about my C-section infection, explaining how being forced to work almost certainly caused it. A fire marshal also testified, detailing the dangerously unsafe living conditions in the basement. The jury only needed 1 hour to deliberate. The verdict came back, guilty on all counts. The judge then delivered his statement saying, "Mrs. Mitchell, I have presided over this court for 23 years. This is one of the most shocking cases of family abuse I have ever witnessed. You deliberately targeted a vulnerable new mother. You put the lives of newborn infants in jeopardy. And through it all, you have shown absolutely no remorse." His sentence was 12 years in federal prison. Barbara began screaming the moment she heard it. She yelled, "That woman is a liar. She deserves everything that happened to her." The judge simply responded, "It was your own son who needed protection from you." Next was Melissa's federal trial. An FBI forensic specialist testified about the deepfake images she had created. Connor Briggs also testified in exchange for immunity. He told the court, "She paid me $15,000. He continued, "She instructed me to make the images appear as realistic as possible." The prosecution then displayed text messages exchanged between Melissa and Connor. Melissa had written, "Make her look bad." Connor replied, "These will be very convincing." Melissa's response was, "Perfect. I want her gone." The verdict was guilty. She was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison and ordered to pay a $25,000 fine. Finally, it was Ryan's trial. His attorney attempted to argue that he had diminished capacity due to the undue influence of his mother, but the prosecutor silenced that argument by playing the video of Ryan pushing me out the door, his face completely cold and uncaring. I was then called to the stand to testify. It was the first time I had laid eyes on Ryan since that terrible night. The prosecutor asked, "Mrs. Blake, can you please describe what happened on the night of December 23rd? I remained calm and composed. I said, "My husband pushed me out of our home. I was just 10 days postpartum. I was actively bleeding from a C-section infection. I was holding our newborn sons. It was 28 degrees outside. He pushed me, then he closed the door and locked it." The prosecutor then asked, "Did he say anything to you?" I replied, "He said he did not know if the babies were his." This was despite me telling him over and over that they were. It was despite me offering to do a DNA test the very next morning. He made a choice to believe lies instead of trusting me, instead of protecting his own children. The prosecutor asked, "And how did that make you feel?" I looked straight at Ryan for the first time and I said, "Betrayed, heartbroken, and completely alone." Ryan was openly weeping in the courtroom. The verdict came in. Guilty of child endangerment, but not guilty on the assault charge. The jury believed he had been manipulated. His sentence was 3 years of probation, mandatory therapy, and supervised visitation only, along with $3,000 per month in child support. The judge added a final comment saying, "Mr. Mitchell, your own weakness is what enabled the abuse of your wife and children. You were too much of a coward to stand up to your mother. You chose loyalty to an abuser over the protection of your family. I hope you use every single day of your supervised visits to remember exactly what you threw away." I filed a civil suit against all 3 of them for emotional distress. The jury awarded me $2.5 million from Barbara, $1 million from Melissa, and $500,000 from Ryan. I donated every penny of it to the Haven House Foundation. I told the reporters outside I do not want their money. I want them to understand that there are consequences for their actions. I want other abusers to see what happens when you pick on the wrong person. It was a late spring evening, during that beautiful golden hour before sunset. My penthouse includes a rooftop garden, which I had specially built right after we moved in. Logan and Lucas are now toddlers, and they were running through the grass, chasing after bubbles that Emma was blowing for them. Emma's daughter, Sophie, who is now 4, was helping them try to catch them. I sat on a wooden bench, just watching them. I was dressed in jeans and an old, faded Georgetown t-shirt. I had no makeup on, and my hair was up in a messy ponytail. I felt at peace. Emma finished with the bubbles and came to sit beside me. She asked, "Are you okay today?" I replied, "Yeah, it is a good day." Dr. Morrison says I am making real progress. I am sleeping better most nights. I continued, "The nightmares are happening less often now." Emma said, "That is good." We sat and watched the children play for a moment. She then said, "You know it is okay to not be okay, right? You do not have to be the strong CEO all the time." A sad smile crossed my face. "I am so tired of people calling me strong," I admitted. "I do not feel strong at all. I feel like I am just held together with duct tape and pure stubbornness." She replied, "That is called being human. That is actually a lot stronger than pretending everything is fine." Just then, Logan ran over, tripped, and fell on his bottom, and immediately started to cry. I went straight to him, scooped him up, and checked him all over. "You are okay, buddy," I whispered. "It was just a little tumble, see? Nothing is broken." Logan stopped crying, wiped his runny nose on my shirt, and then squirmed to be put down so he could run back and play. Emma said softly, "You are an incredible mom. You know that?" I watched my boys and said, "I am a terrified mom. Every single day, I wake up feeling afraid. I am afraid someone will try to take them from me. I am afraid I will mess them up somehow. I am afraid that I am not enough for them." Emma replied, "That is called love. It means you are doing it right." Down below, a car pulled into the parking area. Tom got out of it, carrying a shopping bag. I felt myself tense up just a little. Old habits die hard. He called up, "I am a few minutes early. Should I wait?" I called back, "No, come on up." Tom climbed the stairs, leading to the rooftop garden. The moment the boys saw him, they ran over, yelling, "Pop, pop!" He knelt down very carefully and gently. "Hey guys, sis," he said. "Look what I brought for you." He reached into the bag and pulled out 2 small toy dump trucks. The boys were absolutely thrilled. He sat right there on the grass with them, playing and making little truck noises. The boys were giggling uncontrollably. Emma watched him very carefully. She does not trust him. She probably never will. She leaned over and whispered, "Are you sure about him?" I replied. He testified. He told the truth. He is trying. And the boys deserve to have at least one grandparent who is not a monster. She countered. He enabled a monster for 40 years. "I know," I said. "But he is also the only one who showed any real remorse. The only one who is actually doing the work. So I am giving him this one supervised, very limited chance." Tom looked up at me, caught my eye, and silently mouthed the words, "Thank you." I just gave him a slight nod. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text message from an unknown number. I knew I should not look, but I did anyway. The message read, "Please, I know I do not deserve it. I know I destroyed everything, but please just talk to me one time. Let me explain. Let me apologize properly. I am begging you, Sarah. Please." It was from Ryan. I stared at the words on the screen for a long moment. Emma leaned over and read it over my shoulder. "Are you going to respond?" she asked. "No," I said. She nodded. "Good. He wants your forgiveness so he can feel better about himself. That is not my job anymore. My job is protecting my sons, and I cannot do that by letting their father back into our lives, not the man who threw them out into the cold when they were only 10 days old." Emma asked, "What if he has changed? What if he really means it this time?" I replied, "Then he can prove it by respecting my boundaries, by paying his child support on time, and by showing up to his supervised visits sober and prepared to be a father. He can prove it by doing the hard work without needing me to be his witness." I deleted the message and did not reply. I do not hate him anymore. I just feel nothing for him. And that feeling is a kind of freedom. We sat there in silence for another moment, just watching the children play. Blake Holdings has since grown to a $2.2 billion valuation. I have been on the cover of Forbes magazine 3 times. The Haven House Foundation now operates in 8 different states. We have helped 2,847 mothers and their children in just 18 months, and we are growing every single day. I personally mentor other survivors of abuse. I give talks and share my story. I have started dating casually, but nothing serious. I am not ready for that, I told Emma. Maybe I will be someday. But right now, my boys and my work are more than enough. Ryan now works at a car wash for $15 an hour. He lives in a small studio apartment in a rough part of the town. He sees his sons once a month during supervised visits at a family center. Every single visit, the boys cry. They do not know who he is. They just call him that man. And every single visit, Ryan cries, too. He is in therapy, which is court mandated, but he also attends because he wants to. He sent me a 12-page letter filled with apologies and explanations, pleading for me to forgive him. I never wrote back. He keeps one single photograph in a frame. It's me in the hospital, holding our newborn twins from those few hours before our world collapsed, before he shattered our family. He stares at it every single night, a constant reminder of everything he threw away. He will never work in property management again. His name is toxic. Every background check reveals his criminal record, the news stories, the viral videos. He is utterly alone, a broken man forced to live with his choices. Barbara is 2 years into her 12-year sentence at a federal prison in West Virginia. She works in the laundry for 12 cents an hour and has no visitors. Ryan tried to see her once, but she refused him. Tom filed for divorce. Melissa is in a different prison, and she is also alone. She sent me a letter that said, "I'm sorry I was wrong. Please forgive me." I burned it after reading only that first sentence. Barbara will be 74 years old when she is released, assuming she even lives that long. Melissa is serving the 2nd year of a 6-year sentence in a federal prison in Kentucky. She lost all parental rights to her daughter from a previous marriage. Her ex-husband now has full custody. She has a job in the prison kitchen. She has tried to commit suicide twice and is now under constant watch. Every week, she writes me letters begging for forgiveness. She sends them, but I never reply. Melissa will be 35 when she gets out, with no career, no family, and no future. Tom is the only one who avoided prison. He is living with his brother in a tiny apartment and works a part-time job at Home Depot for $13 an hour. He gets supervised visits with his grandsons. Once every week, he brings them little toys, reads books to them, and plays gently on the floor. The boys seem to like him. They call him Pop Pop. I permitted this because Tom was the only one who expressed true remorse, the only one who testified against the others, the only one who tried to fix what was broken. He cries every single time he sees them. "I'm sorry," he says to me at every single visit. I am so incredibly sorry for what I allowed to happen. I do not forgive him, but I also do not punish him anymore. "You let evil flourish," I told him one time. "You knew what they were doing was wrong, and you chose to be silent. But you also made an attempt to help me, even though you failed. Because of that, I will give you this one thing. You can get to know your grandsons, but you will never have my trust. Not ever completely. He just nods his head and accepts it. He knows it is more than he deserves. The sun is starting to set now, casting a golden glow over everything. Tom brings the boys back over to me. "Thank you for today," he says. "See you next week." Then he leaves without another word. Emma comes to get Sophie. "Same time next week," she says. "Always." "Love you, boss." "I am not your boss anymore," I remind her. "We are friends." "Twain," she says with a smile. "Love you, friend." They give each other a hug, and then Emma is gone. I am finally alone with my boys. Logan and Lucas are getting sleepy, rubbing their little eyes. "Okay, you two, let's head inside. It's time for a bath, and then it's off to bed." Logan mumbles, "Story, Mama." "Yes, my sweet boy. There is always a story." Then Lucas says, "Mama, stay." My eyes well up with tears, but for once, they are happy tears. They are healing tears. Yes, Mama will always stay. Mama is never, ever going to leave you. I scoop both of them up into my arms. They are getting so heavy, but I can still manage. I carry them toward our home. People often ask if I regret hiding who I really was. They ask if I regret my marriage to Ryan, or if I wish I had made different choices. But the honest truth is, I regret absolutely nothing. Every single decision I made led me to this moment. It led me to them. They tried to destroy me. And for a while, they succeeded. I shattered into a million pieces on that freezing cold porch 18 months ago. But this is the one thing they never considered when they set out to break someone. You do not get to decide how they put themselves back together again. I rebuilt my life, but I came back stronger, sharper, and with a perfect understanding of what truly matters. I am not the woman I was before. I do not give my trust away easily. My home is protected by a security system that could rival Fort Knox. I see a therapist 2 times a week. I take medication to manage my anxiety. There are still times I have a panic attack if someone knocks on my door when I am not expecting it. I am damaged, yes, but I am no longer broken. There is a very important difference. For anyone listening right now who feels like they are lost in the darkness, I want you to know that I see you. 18 months ago, I was you. I was standing out in the freezing cold after they had taken everything from me. They took my dignity, my sense of safety, and my entire family. I truly believed I was powerless. I thought I had nothing left at all. But I was mistaken. I still had myself. I still had the will to keep going. I still had the love for my children. And that was enough. In fact, that was everything. We are inside the house now. It is bath time. The boys splash in the tub and giggle. I wash their hair, being very careful so soap does not get in their eyes. They are singing silly songs to one another in that secret twin language only they can understand. After their bath, we put on pajamas. Logan's pair has dinosaurs on them. Lucas's pair is covered in rockets. They are allowed to pick them out on their own. They are learning to be independent. They are learning that they have a choice. Now, it is time for a bedtime story. I read them Where the Wild Things Are. It is the very same book that Ryan was reading to children on the day I first met him at the library. But it is our book now. It belongs to me and my boys. We are making new memories to push out the old ones. And Max, the king of all wild things, was lonely and wanted to be where someone loved him best of all. Lucas is already fast asleep. Logan is trying to fight it, but he is losing the battle. I kiss both of their foreheads, switch on the nightlight, and pull the door halfway closed. I walk down the hall into my own room, sit down on the edge of my bed, and pick up my phone. I open the Instagram page, for the Haven House Foundation and scroll through all the pictures. I see the women I have helped, the babies who are now in safe homes, and the families who are finally able to thrive. The counter shows that we have helped 2,847 families. My pain was not for nothing. It became my power. This is not the same kind of power I used to have. That was about money, influence, and control. This is real power. It is the power to change people's lives, to break toxic cycles, and to save others from despair. I set my phone down. I look at a framed picture on my nightstand. It is me, holding the twins just hours after they were born, looking completely exhausted, but also glowing with happiness. I won. My victory was not them going to prison. It was not because I took away everything they ever had. I won because I am finally free. I won because my sons are safe. I won because I chose myself. I can hear the soft sound from the baby monitor, the peaceful rhythm of Logan and Lucas breathing in their sleep. That night on the porch was the absolute worst moment of my entire life, but it was also the start of my real life. It was the beginning of a life where I stopped pretending, stopped hiding, and stopped making myself smaller just to make other people feel comfortable. They tried to throw me away like I was garbage, and I rose from those ashes like a phoenix. I turn off my light, lie down in bed, and close my eyes. Sleep comes much more easily these days. The nightmares are not as frequent, and the fear is not as sharp. Tomorrow, I will wake up, kiss my boys good morning, make them a delicious breakfast, go to my job, continue building my empire, help even more mothers, and live my life, my real life, the one I chose for myself, the one I earned, and the one that nobody can ever take from me again. My name is Catherine Sarah Blake. I am a billionaire. I am a chief executive officer. I am a survivor. But the most important thing is that I am a mother, and I am free. The next morning, I am in the kitchen, and sunlight is pouring through the floor-to-ceiling windows. I am busy making pancakes. My boys are sitting in their high chairs, babbling back and forth in their special twin language. Logan looks right at me. "Mama happy," he says. I stop what I am doing. I look at my son. I really look at his wonderful face, his complete innocence, his unwavering trust. Yes, my sweet baby. Mama is happy. Lucas reaches his little arms out for me. Love you, Mama. My eyes fill with tears again, but they are good tears. Healing tears. I love you too, more than anything else in the entire world. I kiss both of them on their heads. They start to giggle, getting my hair sticky with their pancake-covered hands. I do not even care. Emma shows up with coffee and hands me a mug. We stand there together, just watching the boys eat their breakfast, making a happy mess. "You did it," she says quietly. "You know, you actually survived." A smile spreads across my face. "We did it. I never could have done any of this without you." "So, what is next?" Emma asks. "You have already gotten your revenge. You have completely rebuilt your life, and you started a foundation. What is the next big mountain you are planning to climb?" I look over at my boys, and I look at this incredible life I have managed to build. This safe, happy, and free life. Nothing, I tell her. There are no more mountains. Just this. Just them. Just this moment. Just living. That is more than enough. That is everything. The boys suddenly burst out laughing at something. It is that pure, unfiltered joy that only a toddler has. I start laughing too. It is a real laugh, completely free and unguarded. This is my life now. This is my family. This is my happiness. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that you are stronger than you think, then do me a small favor. Hit that like button, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe so you never miss another powerful story like this one. Share it with someone who needs to hear that their storm will not last forever. This content was carefully researched, crafted, and edited by our team to bring you meaningful lessons and inspiration. Thank you for watching until the end.